She stares at the clock, only 4 p.m. How long is this day going to go on for? Each second feels like an eternity. How can she speak when she is voiceless? She doesn't belong anywhere, nowhere feels safe. She's uncomfortable in her shapeless skin. How many more days are going to be like this? Maybe this is it, a constant battle to stay alive.
1 in 9 young people in Scotland has attempted suicide, and Nicola Saunders is one of these people. But she is more than just a statistic, something the UK's conventional healthcare system, with its medicalised approach, often fails to understand. She has struggled with her mental health since the age of 10, following the trauma she suffered during her childhood. Although medication is a necessary solution for some people, it is just one of many steps to recovery. Nicola now lives in Edinburgh with her adopted cat and helps with or runs several mental health support groups, through which she has finally found the right treatments for her mental health background.
Like many others, I was offered little support from the NHS aside from medication, which didn't work for me. After my suicide attempt, I started Living Warriors, a peer support group which aims to help people who have suicidal thoughts and who have attempted suicide. Through the project, I've been experimenting with alternative remedies to deal with my distress and others' distress as well, one of which is art and creative activities.
Nicola writes poetry, draws and makes crafts. She finds a certain release in the therapeutic experience, which benefits her mental health by giving her a sense of purpose.
But yeah, I just like doing stuff that I can feel, because if I can feel it, then I feel connected to it, so it's quite grounding in a way, and I can feel my body actually moving. I can see the progress when I'm making stuff, and that kind of, I get a sense of achievement once I've completed something. That's how it eases my distress, is when I start doing something. It's easy for me to keep going and I'll get lost in it and I won't tend to overthink. And I just feel more like me, and I feel like I'm kind of fully myself whenever I do anything creative, especially making something. It's a reflection of who I am.
Roses bloom and the sun shines through my window. Clouds roll and the wind blows from my window.
As part of a journey to find out about alternative remedies other people suffering with their mental health have discovered, Nicola visited the Out of Sight, Out of Mind exhibition at Summerhall in Edinburgh, which celebrates art as a form of therapy. Now in its 6th year, the diverse multimedia exhibition is created by hundreds of artists with experience with mental health issues.
Of my mind to find.
Nicola met with Fadzaim Makatuya, a Zimbabwean artist and a contributor to the exhibition, who started to understand her own mental health through art, following the suicide of her husband.
Much to my surprise, I didn't even know that I was low or depressed, because I was just churning on with that African spirit of, you know, your husband's died and this has happened, but you've got to carry on, you've got a baby, you've got to work, you've got to do some shifts. You know, I just kept pushing myself and didn't realize that I was internalizing a lot of my grief.
Through the connections she made when moving to Edinburgh, Fadzai was introduced to Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Out of Sight, Out.
I've been involved with it since its inception. Yeah, that was about 9 years ago, and I've been submitting work into the festival every year. There's a poignant sadness about the whole exhibition, but there's also quite a joyous celebration of recovery. So that's quite nice. Seeing a lot of people putting in work that's more interesting than just looking at oneself and trying to internalize all this trauma. I can see it coming out in beautiful sort of chrysalis type things. You know, it showcases that you can recover with art.
Out of Sight, Out of Mind highlights that many people with mental health illnesses have found art to be therapeutic, but art requires us to be mindful, calm and collected. So what can a person do when they're feeling frustrated or angry? To find out, Nicola explored boxing as a form of therapy.
Bouncing on the toes, double jab, right hand. Good. Right hand, left hook, right hand. Bouncing on the toes. Good girl, lift your hands up the side of the head. 2-stepping on your toes to go backward.
Bradley Welsh, whose motto is fighting fit without getting hit, is a trainer at Hollywood Boxing Gym in Edinburgh, a registered charity run by volunteers. His classes allow people to explore the scientific and mental health benefits behind boxing. Becoming fitter, more toned and boosting people's confidence are the most obvious reasons to why this sport can benefit people's lives. But non-contact boxing also allows participants to explore and express stress and anger in a safe environment, allowing them to understand their feelings better. Whilst boxing, a large number of endorphins, the neurotransmitters that create feel-good thoughts, are released, helping trainees optimise their positivity. The main mental health aspect of these sessions is how it focuses the mind, very similar to the effects of the popular mindfulness practices. Whilst training, the mind narrows its field of focus onto just the present moment. People feel more aware of their thoughts afterwards, making them less likely to repress certain sentiments. Psychologists and therapists have been experimenting with combining physical therapies such as boxing with mental health mentoring. In these experiments, the training sessions end in wind-down times, allowing participants to discuss their feelings throughout and helping them to understand their anger. An example of how combining mind and body practices can be helpful and successful for people struggling with their mental health is yoga therapy.
So do what you need to, shuffle around, move your head, your legs, your bum, whatever you need to get comfortable.
Yoga therapy is a mind-body practice which helps optimize mental health by understanding the deep connection between your emotional, mental and physical self. It helps alleviate trauma and improve mental and physical illnesses by combining science, psychology and yoga practices. Laura Wilson, the founding director of Edinburgh Community Yoga and a minded yoga therapist, organises sessions from her home. She works therapeutically both in groups and one-on-one to help people understand their thoughts better and to explain how these can influence the body. In a session with Nicola, she explains how this works.
Yoga therapy is a way of creating a safe space where you start to use practices to invite a deep relaxation into the mind and the body. And the idea is that if you can create a safe space where the body and the mind are able to relax, then the body will naturally move into a space of healing. Healing has already begun. What I do is a combination of breathing techniques and meditation and movement, because it's a very fast way of starting to alter the way you are feeling and the way the brain is experiencing things. So you can start to breathe down towards the belly, breathe in and out through the nose and contract the throat. And if you're doing those 4 things, the brain starts to recognize that you are safe and that you can start to move into a state of parasympathetic activation, or at least move out of a state of fight or flight. And then usually what happens is you start to bring movement into that as well, looking at poses and movement that can start to alleviate pain. For some people it's about giving them a sense of their own power and their own strength, and using poses to feel a sense of them connected to the earth and being very grounded and safe within their bodies. Stay. The light in me bows to the light in you. Thank you, Nicola.
By looking at alternative remedies like yoga, boxing and art therapy, which all relate to the mind and body connection, it is clear there are readily available ways to see mental health curing in a different light, but they're not always highlighted by the relevant institutions.
So you're taking in the sort of biomedical model of mental health, but also looking at the individual and what their outlets are and how they can get well on their own terms, in their own way, so that we can become sort of more independent, more confident and more self-aware and just grow as human beings. And I think that we have to do that through these other ways. Yeah.
Rain falls on rainbows, grass grows, wind blows, love flows forever.